The Liberal leadership race is kicking into high gear. The window to join closes today, and there are already some notable names vying for the top job. Here to break down who's running and the challenges ahead for the winner is Sarbjit Kaur, co-founder of Kapow Communications, Jeff Rutledge, the vice president of Macmillan Vantage. Unfortunately, we did have a third guest, could not make it in person today, but we are still in great company. Thank you both for joining us. Really appreciate it. Listen, I know it's early days, but there's 45 days to go until that leader is selected. I'm wondering so far what's sticking out to you from the candidates that have come forward. Sarbjit, let's start with you.
Well, what's really sticking out for me is how quickly people are rallying around one front runner, who I believe is Mark Carney, and how much of a consensus is being built around, Mark Carney being the person that should lead the Liberal Party into the next election. And there isn't a lot of, I would say, infighting or acrimony visible anyways. And it's kind of becoming clear who people really feel should be leading the party, and that's nice because it avoids a lot of you don't want to go into an election fractured as a party with a lot of bad ill will over leadership fights.
Jeff, do you agree? Do you think there's a clear front runner here?
I would say that you can never underestimate a good organizer, and I certainly think Ms. Freeland is an excellent organizer, and despite Mr. Carney kind of moving out quickly to capture some of the Liberal cabinet members' support, and perhaps some to his own detriment in Minister Guilbeault, I think Sarbjit is mentioning the speed with which this is moving, and I think the speed is the right thing. I'm very much shocked and surprised by the speed with which they're abandoning the policies that they've been working on for the last 9, almost 10 years. I mean, I think that's probably the most interesting part so far of the platform pieces that they've been putting out.
What about Justin Trudeau here? How does he factor in, especially when you think about his popularity amongst Canadians in general? If you're a candidate, are you distancing yourself from Trudeau, or are you kind of aligning yourself or emphasizing your time in office? And of course, I'm referencing the former cabinet ministers who are in this race, Sarbjit.
I think it's a line. So you're a Liberal. You're a Liberal no matter what. Those policies, the good policies that you're proud to stand behind, it's going to be the dental care, it's going to be the national daycare program, it's going to be the beginning of the pharmacare program. And yet you are a new person. You have your own ideas. You're going to set your agenda and call the shots. And so that's where you have room to, if there's something that didn't work or the people are just not accepting it, it's okay to say at the end of the day, we work for voters and we listen. And if there's a policy that for whatever reason people don't want, it's okay to listen. But I don't think you're going to betray your core values of, working for healthcare, working for social programs, working to protect the environment, and working for working class people of Canada.
The NDP can also hang on to some of the points you made right there. Jeff, I'm assuming the Conservatives are going to come out full swinging on this.
Yeah, they've been very focused, and Pierre has been very focused over the last almost 2 years in messaging around what the priorities of a Conservative government would be. But I think as much as we can talk about, the Liberal agenda and the priorities that they've set forward, this is all happening under the guise of a potential tariff war that could start as early as next week with the U.S. And I think Canadians are most concerned about that. And to be frank, I think they're a bit upset that there's a distraction of a Liberal leadership when they see a reality of potential job loss. We're hearing numbers of upwards of 500,000 people in Ontario. They expect their government to get focused, and unfortunately, they're dealing with a Liberal leadership to distract from what are the real priorities of Canadians.
Sarbjit, is that a distraction?
I don't think so. There is a fully functioning government and a cabinet and a team Canada that's been brought together. And if anything, leadership is when you bring in a lot of people and you get a chance to hear how would they manage this? How are they managing this? Sometimes an issue can happen after the election that you never would have anticipated. You never got a chance to think about it or even consider who is best equipped. And now this is causing an issue for Pierre Poilievre because he's been campaigning on a carbon tax that's not going to happen anymore, on Justin Trudeau, who's not there anymore, and he really doesn't have a plan for tariffs, and that's what people are evaluating now. Who's the best to stand up to Donald Trump? Who's going to be able to lead us through this? And we've got people who have experience with that and a whole team Canada that everyone can see them in action.
Okay, I have to mention, we spoke briefly about Doug Ford. There are reports circulating that there could be a possible election being called prior to next year. Jeff, how does this factor into this Liberal leadership and also the upcoming federal election?
Ontario is a mover and shaker when it comes to politics in Canada, and there's no question about that. I think that both Doug Ford and Pierre Poilievre have their independent focuses at the moment in terms of, one, securing a renewed mandate to be able to go to Washington, and then I'm speaking about Premier Ford, to be able to go to Washington with a strong 4-year mandate. That means that he will be on the end of the phone anytime a President Trump picks up the phone. And then for Pierre, to be able to tackle the federal issues where there is a vacuum, which even Minister Miller referenced yesterday in an interview. There's a vacuum of power in Ottawa, and I think Pierre is doing the right job, which is saying it's time for an election. And while the Liberals look to abandon the principles that they've run on and promoted as being the only ways to, one, save the economy and two, save the environment, I think Canadians can see through this distraction and realize that it is time for an election. It's time to get focused on the issues that matter to them.
Are people going to be electioned out? Is this overwhelming to have to deal with 2 elections just so close together, and then on top of that, the tariff threat? Sarbjit?
I just find it very I would say a little bit unacceptable when people think that they can call an election when they feel like it. There's timelines, there's set terms, and there's democracy. And I feel like it's a lot of people wanting an election because they're high in the polls, or, let's get it done now. You don't know what the future can bring. Ontario's economy is headed downwards. So, I think Doug Ford's been doing a fantastic job as part of Team Canada, really being part of that, and his popularity's gone up for that. And so there's a feeling of, well, why not just get an election out of the way when it's we're riding high? But I think at the same time, that's not necessarily good for democracy. He has a majority, he has a mandate. I don't think that there's anything that he can't do today that he needs to go to an election for early.
Okay, really quickly, because I do want to bring that up, that we just saw an unprecedented election unfolding in the U.S. where there was a last-minute switch-up when it came to the Democratic ticket going from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris. There was concern that Kamala Harris would not be able to introduce herself to voters in that short span before the November election. Have we learned anything here north of the border? Not that those circumstances apply, but are there any takeaways, Jeff?
So, we're having a discussion about imports and exports right now across the Canada-U.S. border, and it appears to me as though the Liberals have certainly imported the strategy of the Democrats in the States in trying to flip the script at the last minute to cling on to power. I think it's a dangerous move. I think it takes away from the important work that is being done, and I think that, in fact, I think it'll harm them when they go to the polls with a new leader.
The flipping the script, you're referring to who specifically?
To a new leader, and particularly when they've sold their perspectives on both social issues and on the economy so hard under the policies that many of these candidates previously ran on, and now to be axing them so close to an election, I think it creates a real challenge for them.
Sarbjit?
I don't believe that by flipping the script, you're saying this is what Conservatives wanted. This is what they've been asking for such a long time. And then with the Liberal membership and listening to the public, they have decided to actually listen and change leaders. So I'm confused as to why Conservatives who wanted Justin Trudeau gone are now saying that, oh, this was not a good thing to flip the script. So going into the election, again, they're going to have a lot to stand on. They've guided this country through the pandemic, kept us through various housing marketing crashes that the U.S. experienced that we did not experience because, again, different sound fiscal policy. The issue with Harris is, there was a new leader, but there wasn't new ideas. So that's what the learning is going to have to be for the Liberals in Canada, that you need to actually have a new candidate with new ideas, a little bit of a different direction. Otherwise, people are not looking for just a different face. And, with Mark Carney, he is a person with a wealth of experience and knowledge to bring to the table. So I think people are confident that he's going to be able to guide them through tumultuous times and bring those ideas.
So you snuck in a last-minute endorsement there. I saw we're going to have to leave it at that. So 45 days to go, March 9th, Liberal leadership race. That's when we're going to get that leader named here. And then elections, plural, possibly coming this year. Okay, Sarbjit Kaur, Jeff Rutledge, thank you so much both for being with us here today.